Hi folks, in this video I'm going to be looking at a super fast and easy way to get the blue glow power sword onto your minis so you can start playing tabletop games as soon as possible. So without any further ado, let's cue the music. To start out, give a base coat of all the areas you want to be silver in your favourite dark metal. In this case, I'm using black metal from scale 75, but you can use any dark metallic paint that you want, such as lead belcher from Games Workshop. And I've thinned this with just a touch of water to ensure that it flows off the brush, but it's very nice and straightforward, just getting an even base coat all over the areas we want to be silver. Once our base coat has dried, I'm coming in with a highlight for this silver, and I'll be painting this over 3/4 of the blade. And for this colour, I'll be doing a roughly 50-50 mix of the base coat silver and Armour blue from Games Workshop. And as you can see, this gives us a lovely blue steel colour. Be focusing this 3/4 coverage from roughly about 3/4 way of the blade down towards the hilt. You want to keep this thin enough so it flows off your brush, but not too thin that you end up glazing this. We still want this to be a layer paint. And what we're going to do with this, once we have put down this coverage of paint, whilst it's still wet, clean off your brush and then move the bristles backwards and forwards to soften out the transition of colour, so there's not a stark line between this blue steel colour and our base coat silver. And it might take a little bit of practice, but it's just a matter of cleaning off your brush, going backwards and forwards and feathering out the difference in the two colours. With the blue silver now dry, I'm coming in with Temple Guard Blue from Games Workshop to start our first layer. And you can use any sort of mid-tone saturated bright blue for this. I quite like this colour. It gives a nice vibrant contrast to the other colours we're using today. And I'm thinning this down just a little bit more than normal, and I'll be focusing around the power node of this sword, but if it's a Space Marine power sword, it's a much smaller node, focus onto maybe the bottom half or the bottom third of the blade with this colour. And just like in the previous step, whilst the paint is still wet, wash off your brush and move it backwards and forwards to soften out the transition of colours between our blue silver and this colour. And you may need to do a couple of thin coats to get a nice smooth even coverage. And on your second pass, try to cover a little less area than you did with your first one, and you'll get a nice subtle gradient of colour. Once the blue has dried, it should look something like this. For the last colour in highlighting the blue of this power sword, I'm coming in with Baharoth Blue from Games Workshop, and this is a really vibrant, bright, saturated blue. And with this, I'm focusing this paint around the power node of the power sword. And sometimes you might find that these nodes are offset. It's down the middle of this Admech one, but Sisters of Battle, Imperial Guard and Space Marines do tend to have offset power nodes. On those swords, it is up to you whether you focus in the middle of the sword or around the power node itself. I like to focus around the node, as it gives that illusion of that's where the energy is coming from. And with this, we need to cover maybe about half of the previously covered area, making sure to keep our paint thin to ensure that it flows nicely off the brush. To help the silver on the sword blade pop, come in with your favourite silver and highlight the top 1/4 of the blade. If you really want to enhance this effect, only highlight the side of the blade that's going to be upwards towards the light. Whilst you've got this silver out, come round with an edge highlight all around the edge of the blade, and if you're feeling really confident, do a thin line down the middle of the blade. This addition of a brighter tone really helps the silver tip of the sword to stand out against the vibrant blue we've created at the power node. Lastly, with your favourite gold paint, highlight the hilt and the power node on the sword blade. Now really do take your time with this and try to avoid making mistakes as much as possible, but don't worry if you do make any mistakes, wait for the paint to dry and then come back in with the Baharoth Blue and neaten up any runovers of paint. It's quite tricky on these Mechanicus blades because they're quite chunky power node, but you'll find on other types of power sword the nodes are much thinner and you can probably get away with just painting that top surface without having to come in at the side. Once you've gone over all of those areas with the gold paint, it should look something like this. And as you can see, that gold colour is in a nice warm tone, which has really allowed the bright saturated blues to pop and give us a nice glow effect without too much trouble on this power sword. And with that, this easy power sword is now complete. I hope this tutorial has inspired you, if you are worried about power swords, to getting your models painted and out onto the table. If you enjoyed this video, why not consider subscribing? It's free of charge, it helps me out, and if you hit that little bell icon, you get further videos just like this one in your YouTube feed. So, until next time folks.